Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room live stream with myself, Paul, and Tom. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this Tuesday evening, or Tuesday afternoon, or Tuesday morning, wherever you do find yourself in the world. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will get into all of the news straight away. But before we do that, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you haven't already done so, please do jump over to our YouTube channel. Link is in the bio of the Twitter page if you're currently watching on Twitter. If you're currently watching on YouTube and you haven't been here before, please do feel free to drop a like and subscribe as well, and stick around and make sure that you have your notification bell on for all future streams and videos so that you never miss out as well either, just for that small bit of housekeeping. But in the meantime, there is a little bit of news on everything. We'll be going over some goalkeeper news, some injury news regarding Andy Robertson, Trent starting for England, and maybe Southgate has seen a bit of sense, and discussing more so a little bit more on the keepers and prices in relation, since Arsenal won 40 million for Aaron Ramsdale, and considering how he's basically played 2 games this season, and the likes of Kelleher have played a massive amount of games this season, you'd wonder what the price would be for that. But we'll jump on to the first topic of the Feyenoord keeper, Justin Bijlow. I believe that's how you pronounce his name, is Biljow, or I think that's how the Dutch pronounce it, Bijlow. Is expected to move to the Premier League, and Arsenal and Liverpool are the two teams that he seems to be going for. He's a 26-year-old, 6'2" keeper. He's quite a decent keeper. He is their backup essentially. He's played 17 games for Feyenoord this season. He conceded 14 goals in that time, but then again, it's hard to be the backup keeper. It's one of the hardest jobs in the world. But it is really more indicators, Paul, that Kelleher probably is on the way out this summer. Do you think that we should go with another foreign keeper similar to Adrian that's going to take up a non-homegrown spot, or do you think the reins of the second to third choice keeper should be handed to a homegrown talent to allow us to be more flexible with the non-homegrown slot in different positions? Maybe somebody like Jaros, who's currently representing Croatia now at the moment, or Czech Republic, I believe he's with. He's not their first choice, but he's been called up is the main thing. What avenue do you see us taking? Using a non-homegrown spot on another keeper, or do you see us saving that spot for elsewhere in the team?
I would be very surprised if we go for this guy because, as you said, he's 26. So he definitely will be taking up a non-homegrown spot. I don't think he's the right profile we're looking for a couple of reasons. One, at 26, this guy should be looking to start somewhere, not to come to us as a backup. And from our perspective, we have a lot of games coming up in the year, probably a bit closer to 60 if you include all of the cup games, Champions League, etc. And based on Alisson's injury record over the last year or two, it's safe to say that we will need another keeper to probably between the sticks for, I'm going to say, minimum 20, 25 of those 60 games. If this guy is the backup at Feyenoord, I don't think he is the kind of person we want to take to Liverpool to be starting 20, 25 games.
Yeah.
You would think we want somebody who is better than that. And if we're going to use up a non-homegrown player for a goalkeeper, which I was never, in fact, with, because Alisson is going nowhere for the next 4 or 5 years. If we're going to use a non-homegrown slot and a backup goalkeeper, to me, he has to be somebody that we can comfortably expect to play for the first team, and we're fine. And I don't think this guy has the quality to do that. So I would be very surprised if, because he is a big step down from Kelleher, So I don't like it. I would much rather see us finding an older English goalkeeper, somebody in the late, 28, 29, 30. Even if he's a backup, that's fine. But at least we're not using up that spot. Or we find a young 21, 22-year-old who might be the future in the next couple of years. But this guy has very little chance to be Alisson's successor when that time comes. So I think it's pointless we even looking at this guy.
Yeah, it is. I think it's a bit of an odd one myself. Tom, would you echo Paul's thoughts as well on that? It might be a better idea to hand the reins of the backup to somebody like Jaros, and then even give the third spot to Pitaluga rather than wasting. I say wasting. To be honest, it is wasting a non-homegrown spot on another Adrian who's just going to sit there and just provide the vibes to the stadium. If you're going to hire a guy for that, you might as well just hire him as a coach rather than wasting a non-homegrown spot, realistically, shouldn't you?
Yeah, I agree with Paul, to be honest. I'd be lying if I said I know anything about him. But obviously I believe he's only a backup for Feyenoord, so that's obviously not, what you really want to hear, is it, to be honest? Obviously, this is the benefit, he knows Arne Slot knows him, which is obviously a good building block to go from. But yeah, I wouldn't be wasting any money on that. Pitaluga, Jaros, they've both been, bigged up quite a lot. So, you'd rather give them a chance than, waste money on, Feyenoord's backup. I do think the priority should be, obviously it might not be possible, but the priority should be to keep Kelleher. Like from what I've heard and read, he's not desperate for a move away. So for me, unless you get a really good offer in, or he's banging down the door to go, I just wouldn't let him go. I think you want to be getting at least 30 million for me, because we know Alisson's injury prone, so that void is going to be there for, like Paul said, maybe 15, 20 games of the season. So, my priority, if possible, and he's not dying for a move, we just got to try and keep Kelleher, because, we know what a good job he can do. And, he's proven that time and time again. He had his low moments last year, but, after a few games, once he got into his rhythm, he was very, very impressive. So, yeah, I'd like to think that we can just keep hold of him, to be fair.
Yeah, and to be, that's the way that I look at it, is you offer him a new deal. That's realistically the only way around it. He wants first team minutes. He's clearly gotten a taste for it, and to be perfectly honest, he deserves it. And I'm in two minds about it, because as an Irish fan, I want to see him in a first team role that he can develop into the goalkeeper I know he can be, and be somebody that is a starting keeper for both Ireland and for a Premier League team. Because I think any team other than City and Arsenal he'd start for, in my own personal opinion. Then
he's playing like 15, 20 games a season, like I said, for us every year, isn't he? So if you think about it from his point of view, does he want to play 15, 20 games for Liverpool every year, win trophies, or does he want to play 30 on for just an example, Crystal Palace?
Similarly to like a James Trafford, like the exact same situation with James Trafford. Like, even though Burnley went down, like he could get completely starting minutes there, no problem. But now he's gone into a situation where there's essentially three starting keepers between himself, Pope, and Dubravka, and it seems like he's going to be number one there. So it's a very similar situation. But to your point, Tom, of how much you take from, I wouldn't take anything less than 40 million. If Aaron Ramsdale, who played absolutely bugger all football this season, is going for 40 million base fee, and then you throw add-ons on top of it, I'm not taking anything less than 40 million for Kelleher. Easily. It is.
Can you get it though, Stephen?
But if you can't get it, you keep him and you just hand him a bigger salary. So it's a win-win for us either way. We either get a fat stack of free money from pure profit, or we get to keep the second best keeper in the league. It's best number two in the league, should I say? It's probably the better word framing for that. We get to keep the best number two in the league. We pay him a little bit more, or we get serious amounts of pure profit. It's one of the two. It's a win-win for us, and it's a win-win for Kelleher, realistically, when you think about it like that. If you look at it pure logically.
Well, true, because I would want to suggest that for the top three, top four teams, being ourselves, Arsenal, City, the backup keepers for the top teams should be able to comfortably be starters for the Premier League teams in the lower half. So if you go, I don't know what what the lower half goalkeeper makes for salary. I know Pickford make a ton of money, but other than Pickford, I'm gonna suggest that the lower half goalkeepers, they're probably making 60, 80 grand a week. Now we were paying Adrian that last season. So I guess if we go to Kelleher and say, listen, we pay you 60 or 70 grand a week, you're gonna start, say, all of the Carabao Cup games, maybe the FA Cup games, and of course you're gonna play a couple Premier League games here or there. You're gonna get 25 starts, and you are Ireland number one. I think you'll be fine with that if we're paying him.
Yeah. It's the only reason that he's not Ireland number one at the moment, and it's an absolute travesty, is because Gavin Bazunu is getting first team minutes in the championship and it's become a topic of conversation across all Irish media of late, especially after Kelleher's great run and his heroics in the Carabao Cup final. Probably one of the best goalkeeper performances I've seen in a long, long time. It's one of them where it's like Bazunu is only there because he gets first team minutes, but even he's been dropped, and the question is being asked across Irish media of how is it Kelleher's fault that he's sat behind probably one of the best keepers to ever grace the Premier League, but he's in a team that has such a strong goalkeeping core, and yet he still doesn't get minutes in the Irish 11. And when he does, Ireland tend to end up winning. And we've seen that against the friendly against Hungary, although Ireland conceded, it's still 1-2-1. I don't see that being the case if Bazunu's in goal myself, personally. Luther, we're not signing Ramsdale. It's more so thank God for that. We're not signing Ramsdale. It's what we were discussing was more so the comparison between how Arsenal are demanding 40 million plus add-ons for Ramsdale, and we were discussing to see how much Kelleher would be worth. Tom, would you be in agreement with myself in saying I wouldn't take anything less than 40 from? And obviously, Jim Hughes is mentioning here, there's no market. That's fine if there's no market, but if there's no market, that means you can drive up the price. We've seen that with CDMs last summer with like the Caicedo, it was bang average for most of the season, going for 115 million quid. So if there's no market and the team is desperate enough, they can very easily come in and get a keeper. And if that's the case, I myself wouldn't take anything less than 40 million. Tom, would you be in agreement with that, or would you take a lower price from? Obviously, Charlie here mentioning 30 million is a fair price from.
Yeah, I'd be holding out for 35, 40, definitely. Like I said, we hold all the cards. He's under contract there. He's not, unless, like I said, unless he's banging the door down to go, then I wouldn't be letting him go, to be honest. Even if you get like 35, 40 million, as I said, we know Alisson's very injury prone. That is a very, very important position for us, that backup goalkeeper. So even if like 35, 40, if he's happy enough to stay, I wouldn't be 100% sure that I'd take that, because, as I said, they're going to be playing 20 games a season. You need someone who's competent in goal, and Kelleher is. He's been here years now. He's settled. So yeah, for me, I'm keeping him all cost unless he wants to move. As I said, because if he wants to move, he deserves that move because he's been a great servant for us. But if he's happy enough to stay, then I don't think I'd take anything other than like a ludicrous offer, to be honest. Yeah,
realistically, and Jamie was mentioning that like no mid to lower tier English Premier League club will take that. That's fine. They don't have to. We don't. Personally, I don't want to sell him. So that's why you throw the price at that level. And if somebody really wants him, they'll pay it. And if somebody doesn't want to pay it, well, then we win and we get to keep Kelleher and we get to put him on a higher salary, make him a bit happier that way. Maybe put a release clause in his contract for 30 million of the following player. He never said he didn't want to move. He wanted to move on. He never said that. He said he has a taste for first team football, as Charlie mentions here. And he hasn't asked outright to leave. Maybe he has behind closed doors, but I highly doubt it. He said he's very happy here. He wants to play first team football, be it at Liverpool or not silly. And he knows that he obviously is sat behind Alisson at the moment. If an offer came in from a particular team, I'm sure he'd probably be notified of it and be like, look, this is the team that's come in for you. Do you want to go there? And if he says yes, I'm sure we'd let it go through. We'd start negotiating on a price. And if he says no, I don't want to go near that team, we'll just say no. I'd imagine he's going to be very much involved in any sort of a move that goes on, as any player would. But I don't think there's going to be an awful lot of conversation had about it. As Tom mentioned, like, is he going to want to move to a team where he's playing 30 games but it gets pumped every weekend because he's a terrible defense in front of him? Or would he rather play 20 to 25 games a season with us, considering hopefully it doesn't happen, but if Alisson goes down again for a similar prolonged period of time, I'd be much happier with Kelleher in goal than any other ones. And I know Charlie obviously mentions that Jaros and Pitaluga are good enough to be second string. I don't know if Pitaluga is going to be second string in my own mind. He's not even getting game time in the League of Ireland at the moment for the team that he came over for, St. Patrick's Athletic. He's not even getting game time with them. I think he'd be much better suited going to a League One team, or a League Two team, should I say, excuse me. Like, send him to Tranmere, literally across the river. That's probably the best spot for him. Paul Glatzel went there, even though that league will tell you exactly where it is. Jamie, that's it. Like, he played 2 games and conceded a couple of goals, and I've seen him play. Like, it's not like he's bad. It's just he needs it. That's the way it is. He just needs game time, and he's not getting that in the League of Ireland at the moment. I think he's another 2 or 3 years away from getting the game time. But Jaros, as Charlie mentioned, is a really, really good option. He's over with Czech Republic as it is at the moment, not the starting keeper, but he's with the national squad regardless, and that's a far cry from many keepers that we have, considering we have 3 keepers in Jaros, Kelleher and Alisson, who are all on the panels for their international teams. So that is one thing to look at as well. But I personally wouldn't take anything less than 40 million from him. And if no team is willing to offer that, I'll just give him a higher salary and tell him, here you go, you have 25 games a season. That's the way. Jimmy, that's basically it. Real Betis have come in for him, and he's basically saying, yes, please, thank you. And I don't think we need to spend money on another non-homegrown spot, because that just completely defeats the purpose of having the likes of Jaros and Pitaluga sat there for a third string keeper, because then you can use that non-homegrown spot for left side of centre back, a left back, a right winger, CDM, what have you. And that's just the way that I look at it realistically. Before we move on to the next topic, just before we get into everything, please do make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and make sure you have your notification bell on for all future streams and videos so that you never miss out as well. And Charlie, who has been a member for 23 months, is trying to get a wind up out of me, but he's not going to get it. But thank you so much anyway, Charlie. The South American Chocolate Brothers. Referring to Diaz and Nunes there, for anybody that doesn't know, Charlie doesn't like Nunes. For some particular reason, he doesn't like him, but there's no point in getting into that, or else I'd be here for an hour debating him, and he'd just try and wind me up, and there's no point in that, because I'll just come over to Liverpool and bat the head of him. But it is very interesting times on the keeper. Like Jace here immediately agreeing with us. If Kelleher is worth 60, that's basically the way. That's perfect. Love that. But bit of injury news with Andy Robertson, and obviously at the very start of the stream we had Jonas asking, is Robertson injured? It initially looked like it was when he was taken out of training earlier on. I believe it was today or yesterday. I think it was today. I think it was yesterday that he was taken out of training because of an injury, but it was confirmed today that it is only precautionary. But that raises another question of, similarly to Alisson, Andy Robertson is getting up there in age. I say that as a man that's nearly the same age as him, and it makes me sound ancient. But Andy Robertson is getting up there in age for the footballer's profile. He's going to be 30, or he is in his 30s. We've seen this season he missed about 13 to 14 games. About 15 games he missed this season through injury alone. Tsimikas came in and done a solid job, but I feel he may be on the move as well this summer. We have Owen Beck that will be coming back from Dundee, who I guarantee you would probably see increased minutes this season, especially under Slot. But, Tom, it begs the question of, do we need to venture into the left back market, or is getting somebody that can cover the left centre back and left back role one of the biggest priorities that we have alongside the CDM role?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I still really rate Robertson. I still think he's top 5 best left backs in the world, no debate. So yeah, I would love to keep him for a few more years, but these injuries are getting a little bit concerning. A few years ago he never missed a game, really, did he? Really? But he does seem to be getting these knocks now. So yeah, for me, he's not a priority to sort of replace. I think he's still got 1 or 2 more years in him. That left back role. The left centre back, left back would be ideal. I do like Colwell from Chelsea. I do think he could do a very good job. He's obviously only very young as well, so he's got massive development ahead of him. Obviously a Liverpool fan as well, so someone like him could be a good shout. But you still got Virgil and Ebu there. Do you really need a left centre back? I don't think you do particularly. So yeah, for me, he's not a priority to replace right now. But like I said, due to the injuries, do seem to be ramping up. I think it is one that we need to keep an eye on over the next year or two and start, getting a shortlist to get into that position.
Yeah, I'd rather get it done sooner than later myself and future-proof it, because in a market where there seems to be a lot of centre-backs going in this summer, it would probably be better and cheaper for us to do it now rather than in 12 months' time, like we got caught with the CDM role of now all of a sudden they're all gone and it's a massive premium. Let's put an unrealistic price on Robbo right now. 100 million, please and thank you. One of the highest assisting fullbacks of all time, with Trent Alexander-Arnold just behind him. And for those wondering, Trent has more assists in the Premier League than Eden Hazard. So
I saw that. That's mad.
Let that sit with you for a while. And Eden Hazard has played 30 more games than him too. But that's not a conversation that a lot of people are ready for, and that guy gets compared to Salah. But I digress. Paul, you have been an advocate of getting a left footer for the back line, be it a left back or a left-sided centre-back that can play both the left back and the left-sided centre-back role. Not to push Virgil out of the way, but as you mentioned, you're going to be playing 50-plus games this season. That alone is 4,500 minutes. Most professionals will play a maximum of 3,000 minutes in a full season. So you then have another 1,500 to 2,000 minutes there to make up, barring any injuries as well on top of it that you hope don't happen. But with Andy Robertson having another injury scare and possibly Kostas Tsimikas leaving in the summer, there's been no confirmed rumours of that. That's just a hunch that a lot of us have, that he's probably on the way out. You then have Owen Beck coming in as a backup. Do you feel that left-sided centre-back now becomes a bigger priority than a CDM at this current moment?
I don't, for a number of reasons. As Tom just said, Robbo has another 1 or 2 years at the very least at the top. So you're not just going to find a reasonable price left back that at the moment can be as effective as Robbo is. Plus, we found out accidentally how good Conor Bradley is because of injuries to Trent, and then he was forced to come in and play some minutes. So if we're going to go into the market now for a left back, it means that we are making a decision that Beck and Chambers aren't good enough, and I don't think we can make that assumption just yet. I think we need to give the young guys some opportunities. So I don't think we need to worry about the left back market right now, unless of course something unusual does happen and something fell in our lap. But the need for a left-sided centre back that can cover right back is far more important right now, because we all believe that Verge of another 3 years at the very least at that spot where he plays at left-sided centre back. So we need a left-footed centre back that can cover as a left back as well. I don't think Levi Cowell will happen. Yes, he can do it, but he's more a centre back that was forced to play left back. It doesn't strike me as somebody that's really comfortable over there. And then with the amount of money that it will demand to get us transfer like that, to have him with limited minutes to just be deputy for Verge when Verge takes a break, I don't think that makes a ton of sense. So I would say that we're going to go in the market for a younger, reasonable price centre back, left-footed, that can cover over there for maybe around 30, 40 million price range. And we certainly won't get Levi Cole for that. But I think Robbo is good enough for another year or two. And we need to see if Chambers and Owen Beck is good enough before we decide to just go into the market for somebody expensive.
Yeah, not even somebody expensive, but as I said, a left-sided centre-back that can fill both of those roles would probably be the priority rather than a left-back directly. I think so, because over the two positions of letting Verge rest, having Konate there as well, that's obviously going to be needed. You're going to need another centre-back because we've lost Matip. You're probably going to lose Sepp van den Berg as well, which I really hope we don't, but you probably end up losing him back to Mainz too, and he could have been covered at right back as well. You then have Joe Gomez, who can cover left back, right back, and centre back, but you don't want him spread too thin either. I think depth is going to be our best friend next season, especially going back into the Champions League, and it's probably one of the best things that we could have going for us. It's a difficult one because I know Andy Robertson probably has another 2 years in him, but how much of those next 2 years is going to be spent on an injury table is the question that I more so have, because they've kind of ramped up and he missed 15 games or so this season. If Owen Beck can step up, as you mentioned, Paul, we've seen how good Connor Bradley can be because of injury to Trent, and that was an absolute stroke of luck how we've just pulled two unbelievable right backs out of nowhere from the academy. But you'd nearly not want it to be because of that, and you'd nearly rather them naturally come through, but sometimes needs must, and that's just the way that it happens. We've Zia here mentioning that I find the obsession with a left back very strange. A priority should be a left-sided centre back and a DM to rotate with Endo, and a right wing to play cover in place of Salah. Assume we will sell Diaz. That's what we're saying. We're saying not a left back, but somebody that can cover both a left-sided centre back to give Virgil van Dijk a break and also be able to play a left back role to ease the run on the older legs of the likes of Andy Robertson, essentially negating any injury risk that may be there. That's the plan anyway, but Mike Tyson says everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth.
What about Steve? For a backup left back?
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's fine. Obviously, he's not a starter. But I think he can do a job for 15, 18 games a season. He can come off the bench if we need some attacking flair over that side. Let's, and what is he earning? Like 40, 50 grand a week? It's not crazy expensive.
No, I think it's more the thought process that him and Diaz seem to be on everybody's lips. Now, this is just us internally. See, it seems to be that him and Diaz seem to be on everybody's lips as the ones who will end up being sold. Now, I personally don't think we sell anybody this summer. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't think we sell a single person this summer, and we maybe buy 2 to 3 players, and that's that. Unless something silly comes in for Diaz, I don't see him going anywhere. I think Liverpool valued him at about £65 million minimum, which you'd be happy to take. We essentially double our money on him. And then we also have Dominic Szoboszlai, Cody Gakpo, Darwin Núñez, and Diogo Jota that can play that left wing role very, very handily. All of them. It's Szoboszlai's natural position. It's Cody Gakpo's natural position. As you've seen, Paul, when he was playing for Hungary, he played both on the left wing and the right wing, and he played all across that sort of left wing, right wing, and 10 role. So he's very versatile in that aspect, thankfully. But it's an odd one because I'd nearly rather future-proof now, similarly to the right wing position, because the market is very saturated with wingers at this very moment, and there's multiple ones that we've been linked with. There's obviously Mauricio from the Danish league that was linked, that just screams a Michael Edwards signing, 20-year-old from the Danish first division. Then you also have Johan Bakayoko. You then had Minte as well, that was shot down nearly immediately, thankfully, because I didn't necessarily rate him highly myself. You then have Brian Mbeumo from the Premier League, and you have Michael Olise from the Premier League, and if certain in the nose are to be believed, we're putting in bids for Michael Olise, but that remains to be seen at the moment. similarly, it's how the winger market is very saturated currently at the moment. I think you need to go in for those players in that saturated market. It's that's the best way to look at it. See, we're discussing right wingers, not left wingers. So the left wingers is Diaz, Dominic Szoboszlai, Cody Gakpo, Darwin Núñez, Diogo Jota. Even Curtis Jones can play over there as well. He's done it for the youth squads too, as well as played a 10. So there's that side of it too. And Robert mentioning here with how important Gomez is to his ability to cover anywhere in the back line. He really came into his own this season, and he played nearly 3,000 minutes due to injury across 4 different positions, which is absolutely phenomenal for a guy that was trying to get his fitness back and trying to carve his way back into the side. And he's gotten his England call up now because of it, which is absolutely fantastic. I couldn't be happier for him. I was one of the people that said I wanted him fired from a cannon at the start of the season, and he very, very happily proved me wrong. Very, very happily proved me wrong. I said it at the time. I said I'd be happy to be proved wrong, but based on his performances so far, get rid of him. And he proved me wrong, and I'd be very happy to keep him this summer. I hope he doesn't go to Saudi or anything like that. But in speaking of players with the England squad, it seems Gareth Southgate has seen sense. Before we get into that, I just want to ask everybody to make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure you have all of your notifications on for any future streams or videos so that you never miss out. If you're currently watching on Twitter, go to our bio. There's a link in our bio. You'll be able to get straight to our YouTube channel. That's basically where you'll find us. You will have loads of content coming out over the summer now with the summer transfer window. We'll have scout reports on any players that we end up signing, of what they look like and where they might fit into slot system. And basically, John, to answer your question of what type of a right winger do you think we'll want and need? Somebody that's direct with the ball, that wins, that it's a dribbler, that can also create, also score. So a Salah light, essentially, is what we'd be looking for, because in my own opinion, you're not going to replace Salah. It is that simple. You can't replace a unicorn, because that's what Salah is. But you try and replace him, as the Moneyball quote goes, in the aggregate. That's probably the best one. You need somebody that's about 5'10" to 6 foot tall, a little stocky to a degree in the shoulders and the chest anyway, so that they can actually take a bit of a physical beating, which is why I didn't like the Minte links, because he's very, 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 very slight. Yeah, Bakayoko is an Edwards type signing. There's no issue with that as well. The Mauricio one as well, the guy from the Danish league, is a good one as well. Tom, realistically, you'd want somebody there, though, that's between a certain age gap. And I keep saying between the ages of 21, 22 to 24 is where you'd ideally like the person to be. So your Buemos, your Elises, your Bakayokos, those kind of players. You don't want somebody that's going to come in and then stunt the growth of Ben Doak, who's sat there, pardon the pun, but in the wings waiting to go. You kind of need a tweener between a bridge, so to speak. And I know, Paul, you had a bit of an issue with the word bridge, not to wait for him, but I meant to bridge as in to bridge the age gap is probably the better way that I should have said it to you. But because obviously bridge QB is the way that me and you understood it straight away, of being somebody that you wait. But the way that I look at it, Tom, is you need somebody to kind of bridge the gap in age, like go from Salah, who's in his 30s, to Doak, who's not even in his 20s. There needs to be somebody in the middle there that allows Doak to build into the squad. And if you get somebody that's a similar age to Doak, it completely hampers him straight away. Would you be in agreement with that, or do you think we need to get somebody the same age as Doak, or maybe even closer to Salah in age? What's the age profile and style of right winger that you would like?
Yeah, I think you'd be ideally looking like 22 to 25. Somebody who's young but also has a lot of years ahead of them. I do think Doak, we will be unfair to put that pressure on him right now. I think is he still injured, or is he back from injury now?
He literally was back from injury and then got taken off with Scotland for injury.
Oh, did he? Yeah. So, I mean, we know the promise is there. He's so direct with the ball. He's unbelievable dribbler. I'm not quite sure he's like a typical modern day winger for like a top club. He's right footed, isn't he? He's kind of like an old fashioned winger. Gets down the byline, dribbling, crossing. He's not really like a modern type winger. So
he plays an awful lot like Saka, I think.
Yeah. Like I said, though, he's right-footed, isn't he? So he's more kind of like an old-fashioned type winger. So he kind of strikes me as someone come off the bench and cause havoc, to be honest. But obviously he's got a massive potential ahead of him. So yeah, you want to shop in that kind of mid between Salah and Doak, 22 to 25. But I'd like to think that Salah's got a few more years left in him. You see the shape he's in. He does kind of give me Ronaldo vibes a little bit, just like kind of in terms of the shape he's in, like how robust he is. I do think he can play till mid-30s at the top level. So again, I do kind of like the Robertson thing. I don't think it's particularly a priority, to be honest. Because like I said, I hope Salah's got a few more years to go. And we got cover. We got Elliott there. We got Jota who can play there. We got Diaz who can play there. So there is options there. So yeah, to be honest, I wouldn't say it's a priority position for me.
It'd be third on my list. It'd be CDM, left-sided centre back that can play a left back, and then right winger would be sort of the last on the list that needs to be ticked off, in my own opinion. But to go back to the topic that we're on of England players, and Gareth Southgate finally maybe seeing a bit of sense, Paul. It seems Trent is going to be starting for England at their opener over the weekend. Now, where has not been revealed yet. However, England usually and have always historically gone 1 to 11 with their starters in the jersey numbers, and both him and Kyle Walker are in that 1 to 11. So one would assume Trent may be getting his start at midfield for England, and we may get to see it throughout the Euros and see how he develops there, maybe as an audition for slot. What do you think?
Yes, from the way it's shaping up, I think the England midfield will have I think the shape will be 4-2-3-1 with Rice and Trent in that double pivot six, and it makes perfect sense. There's too much hype incorrectly about Trent defensive problems, because he's no way as bad as people tend to. I think it's just lazy journalism, because if you look at his season, other than speed, what has Kyle Walker shown us this past year? Yes, he's gonna have reputation, but he has been terrible the last couple of months. Trippier on the other side is also bad, right? So I don't know why Trent would not start. There is nobody in English football, no Englishman, that can pass the ball like Trent. Not since David Beckham. So you cannot have a talent like that and have him sitting on the bench. Now, as it relates to, well, I'm hoping he does well, because then that would give Slot something to think about, right?
Yeah.
Because again, we don't know this for sure, but I just have this in me that I think Trent wants the move now to midfield in Liverpool setup. And then when we see us linked to right back like Gertruder from Feyenoord, that even cement the thought in my mind that if we are in for a guy like that when we already have Joe Gomez and Conor Bradley, it means that Trent is being moved into midfield. And if we decide to go a 4-2-3-1, that's Trent's position, that double six. So I think he's going to do well there, and I think that is his permanent position going forward, because there's a lot of people that can defend, but very few players can make those passes that Trent can. Certainly nobody in the English team. And if you look at the midfielders that England have, there's a lot of talent there, for sure. But if you look at Foden, Bellingham, Palmer, Gallagher, and the two new guys, they're all irreplaceable. Foden can play number 10, Bellingham can play number 10, Palmer can play number 10. They can all play advanced 8. But Trent is the only one that can ping those passes, take out the midfield, and get the ball into the feet of Hurricane. So I don't see a world in which you can pick the best 11 for England and Trent is not included in that 11. because there's nobody that can do what he does. So I think it's the start of his new career as a midfielder, both for club and country. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it personally. Robert is asking here about his contract. Apparently, according to Fabrizio Romano, him, Van Dijk, and Salah's contracts are being done this week or next week. They're in discussion at that point, but I think it'll be this week before he ends up starting the Euros. Because if he goes and absolutely rips the Euros up, Trent, he'll be asking for major money. So I think they want to get that sorted before he starts tearing up the Euros. Myself personally. Tom, the same question to yourself. Southgate has seen sense, essentially, and it seems like, as I said, historically, England have gone 1-11 with their starting 11. And as Paul mentioned, I personally think Foden is a system player, because when he steps into that England team, he's dog shit. To be perfectly honest, he just completely disappears and ghosts. Whereas then you have players like Trent and players like Harry Kane and players like that step up in the moment. Maybe it's because Foden's a little bit young and whatnot, but with Trent moving into midfield, and just as I say that, Gakpo is starting left wing tonight for the Netherlands too, which is absolutely fantastic. His natural position is fantastic from that position. But in basically what I'm getting at, Tom, is I do sort of echo Paul's thoughts that this is part 2 of Trent's career at 25 and now moving into midfield and will now cement himself there, and especially considering he's been handed the number 8 jersey too.
Yeah, I think it probably is about the right time. It's a bit of a difficult one though, because I do think whenever I've watched him in midfield, I don't think he's really looked that comfortable, which is quite surprising. Obviously when he comes in from fullback, he looks brilliant. But I think whenever he started in midfield, I don't know, something just looks a bit off. But I think if he gets a run of games in there, you'd like to think that would click. We all know what his ability is like on the ball, so I don't see that being a problem. So yeah, I think they've got to find a place for him. It looks like they will. Sometimes it can be difficult to find that nailed-on position for him, but when you've got someone with an ability like him on the ball, they're very few and far between. The ability that he has, then you've got to find a place somewhere for him, because he's got too much ability, and he can win a match on his own. We've seen that multiple times. So yeah, it's good to see that Southgate's finally putting some trust in him. I think he should even start ahead of Walker right back if it came to it. England are in possession; they can have a lot of the ball. England, so you need to prioritise someone who's good on the ball, not someone who's just purely a centre back playing at full back, really. So yeah, like I said, really happy to hear that Southgate's finally putting some trust in him, and this could be the start, part 2 of his career, which he's got all the skill set to be a midfielder. So let's hope he can kick on in that position and show shut down the haters in this Euros.
Exactly. But it's always ironic considering how Trent can't defend. Trent is an overrated player. Okay, look, why does Real Madrid want him? It's the kind of way I look at it.
Stephen, what do you think about this? Now, Trent has often said, which is true, that he owes his success to Klopp, right? Mm-hmm. Trent came up in the youth system at Liverpool as a midfielder, and then Klopp moved him to right back, and he has been in the team essentially for the last 6 years at right back.
Yeah.
Now, let's assume that Klopp had not done that and continued to develop Trent as a midfielder, I just wondered if he would already be considered the next Steven Gerrard if he had spent his career being developed in midfield instead of coming in from right back. Because it's kind of hard, when you play all your minutes for Liverpool, for your club at right back, and then all of a sudden give the number 8 jersey in the national team and say, go play in midfield. And if we all believe that Trent is really a midfielder, did we do him injustice? That's Klopp. But yes, we get a lot out of him, but could we have gotten a lot more if Trent's career at Liverpool was shoehorned and he was taught to be a number 8 or number 10?
I think it's you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. The reason I say that is when he was brought into the team, he was very slender. He was very thin, very light. He was a kid, essentially. And I think if Klopp threw him into that midfield, he'd have been banged up, bruised, injured, and he may have never reached any sort of a potential. I think putting him in at the right back where it's not up against physically demanding players, so to speak. You're not in there with bruisers and big boys like Rodri, who's 6'5", and Trent being 7 inches shorter than him alone. Like I think body type at the time dictated the move to the right back. Because of his age is the point that I'm trying to make. And I don't think he would have broken through as well as he did from the midfield. I think he would have been behind the likes of James Milner purely on a physicality and versatility point of view, not on a lack of skill point of view. I think at the time as well, you had Jordan Henderson, who still had his legs at the time too. You then had other players that were there. This is like before Ox got his injuries as well. And then you had Fabinho as well in there. And there was a lot of big physical punch you in the mouth midfielders that were part of that midfield that I don't think Trent had the physicality to then match with at that time, which is why he was brought in as right back, but has since bulked up quite a lot and could very easily now transition to that point of view. Now, I'm not saying he shouldn't be moved there at all. I'm just saying at that point when he was brought in was probably, he's just a bit too, like, similarly to how Klopp turned around and said that the reason he didn't put Dan's into that Everton game is because that's not a game he put an 18-year-old into, because he get broken up. It's protecting the player against himself. I'm sure Trent was like, put me in at midfield. He's like, no, look, you're too light, you'll get hurt, and then that completely scuppers your career altogether. You're better off getting your minutes at right back, using your skills from there. I'll develop the team around you, which he did with both him and Andy Robertson, two of the most assisted fullbacks in Premier League history. So it worked out in a way, and I think if it was done a different way, I don't think we get the Trent Alexander-Arnold that we have currently at the moment. Hopefully that answers your question.
Well, if we're thinking about putting him as a number 6, then I totally agree with what you're saying.
Yeah,
where you're coming from. At number 6 would not suit him with his slender body, as I said, being young. But as an 8 or a 10, because to be fair, Harvey Elliott
we never played a 10 though, Paul. That's the thing. Like, so we never played a 10. It was a 4-3-3, and it was heavy metal pressing, run, be physical. And you had James Milner, who was unbelievable at that. And you had Jordan Henderson, who just ran. And then you had your big boy of Fabinho sat in the 6th. So even at that point, the tasks that were being asked of the midfielders, if we played a 10, 100%, he could have been slapped in there and he would have been one of the best 10s in the world.
Winger? But no speed, not fast enough.
It doesn't need to be fast when he can just take the ball, turn and ping it to wherever he wants it. He doesn't need to be fast when he can let the ball do the work. So there's that's why I think Harvey Elliott would be fantastic in that 10 role, because he's not quick, but he's agile, he's shifty, he can get around a guy and he can pick a pass. And that's really all you need. You let the ball do the work. You don't need to run 100 miles an hour. It's just the physical point of it. I think he would have ended up massively injured if he went in at the midfield at the age that he was. Just with the type of jobs we were asking our midfielders to do at that point, and the type of players they were playing against, much bigger physical players. And then at the right back or full back positions, either side, you're not up against big dominating guys. Maybe you are once in a blue moon, but you're not. You're against guys the same height as you, the same build, that are just dribblers and try and take the ball at you. But that's more so, like, if we moved him into a double pivot of a 6 now that allows him to move up to a 10 and be a second 10 alongside a McAllister, Harvey Elliott, Dominic Szoboszlai, absolutely perfect. That will cause havoc to a lot of teams. But I think at the time when he was coming through, I think it would have been detrimental to his development at that particular. Similarly to Doak now, I think Doak needs to go and play in the Championship for a year, build his physicality, and then come back to the Premier League, because he's still missing that sort of last part of it. And Jace mentions obviously Gini Wijnaldum as well, who's very topic of contention with us lately. But he's also another guy that was just a physical presence that would have been able to dominate that midfield. And I think it would have been very, very harsh on Trent.
Okay, you convinced me. I agree. You convinced me.
Tom, would you be in agreement with that as well? Did you think maybe physicality-wise he was better suited to come through as the right back rather than go straight into that midfield? Or do you disagree with me? Do you think he would have fit in that midfield, or what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. To be honest, obviously at right back, you've got, a lot more time than in midfield. When you're in the midfield, you get the ball and you got people on you, whereas at right back, you kind of got time to have a look, pick your head up, and, use his, outstanding passing range like he does. And I think, that's an argument, to maybe keep him at right back permanently because, he does have that time on the ball, which he doesn't have in midfield. So there is that argument to say that, that passing range that we know he has, that is, second to none, I would say. He can really execute that really well from the fullback role. So, yeah, I definitely think from a younger age, it was definitely the right thing to do. It's obviously worked a treat.
Yeah.
And yeah, to be honest, I think he could do either role now. Wherever we need him, I think right back midfield, I think he could do an adequately good job in either. As I said, there's pros and cons to both positions. Really. So yeah, I'd go with that. Yeah.
No. I completely agree with you. It's one of them. I think he can play either 8. I think he can play a 10, or he can play a double pivot 6 or a right back. That's 5 different positions the kid can play. And he's at 25 and he's able to do that now, and he can play them all at a very, very high level without a doubt. It's going to be very interesting at the weekend to see him where he lines up. Does he line up at right back? Does he line up in a double pivot? Does he line up in an 8? Or what's the situation, basically? But we're going to basically end it there. And before we do end it, there are thoughts and prayers essentially need to go to Alan Hansen, and Jamie has pointed it out here fantastically with how ill he's taken of late. Just to pass on thoughts, wishes, prayers, whatever you may want to pass on to Alan Hansen and his family, and just hearing the news about him falling ill and not being very well at the moment. From all of us at LFC Transfer Room, the best wishes to him and his family, and hopefully he's able to pull out of it and get better. But unfortunately, it's not looking the best at the moment. But 99% chance, 1% faith is probably the best way to go about this moniker of a team. But yeah, we will. I see here, obviously, Ricky asking, any chance of signing Joe Neves? Not for that price. Not for 80. No. Not for a minimum of £85 million. Not a chance of that, unfortunately. Robert here mentioned, I think he could turn Gravenberch into a Fabinho. He's played as a DM before for Klopp. Did mention you could teach him the role before. He could, but we're not with Klopp anymore. We're with Slot, who likes to be a very attacking style, possession based. You don't need to be a big destroyer in the 6. Depends, because Slot likes he switches between a 4-3-3 and a 4-2-3-1, and I think Gravenberch can play either 8 in a 4-3-3. I think he can play a 10 in a 4-2-3-1, and that's 3 positions there that he's really going to get into. And it's hard to think of as well, but he's as young as Harvey Elliott. I think he's about the same age as Harvey Elliott. It's essentially that. And Ricky, the reason I don't think we're going to spend money on him is because we already have one. We already have a Joe Neves in Alexi McAllister. They're similar size, similar body frame, similar style of play. If you wanted his defensive partner beside him, and people fight me on this, but if you wanted somebody, what we need for McAllister and Trent in our double pivot is what Joe Neves had beside him in the double pivot with Benfica, is a Florentino Luis style player. If it's him, fantastic. There's other options as well, the likes of Ederson from Atalanta. There's Morten Frendrup from Genoa is another option too. We've Paul's guy, Mats Wiffer, as well, who he's begging to come to Liverpool. I don't think he is myself personally, but there's plenty of options like that. And we also then have to think about Stefan Bijlow as well, which I get the feeling that Liverpool is very high on him, although I believe it would be very risky to hand the keys to a teenager who spent 12 months not kicking a ball at that double 6 position. So it is, Robert, but I think you'd end up actually taking away a lot of his best attributes, which is a box-to-box midfielder that could get in front of the box, the opposing team's box, and just ping passes and ping shots like you've seen in the latter half of the season when he just received the ball, turned, took a touch, and then pinged it into the top corner. So I think that's the kind of player Gravenberch could be, and he's a very, very special player. But we are going to leave it there for this evening. Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Tom, for joining me this evening. Thank you, everybody in the chat as well. If you haven't already done so, please make sure to like and subscribe. If you're on Twitter or X at the moment, please do hit the link in our bio. You'll jump over to our YouTube where you can like and subscribe to the video as well, and make sure you have your notification bell on for all future streams and videos. I hope everybody has a wonderful week, and we'll see you towards the weekend with the Euros. We're not going to have a 7:30 stream tomorrow. That one is cancelled. We'll be back again with Star Stripes and Anfield Nights tomorrow evening, which is 9 p.m. Eastern time or 2 a.m. British time, UK time. And then when it gets to the Euros, we're going to be changing our streaming time to 7 p.m. rather than 7:30, because the games will then start at 2, 5, and 8 p.m., meaning that there's no point in us being on for half an hour and then everybody wanting to jump off and watch the England game at 8 o'clock when it eventually rolls around to that. So we will just move back to 7 o'clock. So we'll go from 7 till 8, and then everybody can head away and watch the latter game of the Euros of that day. So hopefully see everybody on Wednesday or tomorrow night for the Star Stripes and Anfield Nights. But for myself, Paul, and Tom, thank you guys so much for joining us on this Tuesday evening. I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their day. Bye-bye.